Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Ace Got Talk, our Fui show. I'm your host, Ace Got Talk. Tonight, we're going to be discussing mental stability. What is the state of your mental health? Do you suffer from mental health? How do we define the terminology mental health? You see, people often say that your health is your wealth. And when they refer to health, they refer to the state of your body physically. Sometimes we can forget that the mind also has a health life of its own, and that can be very good or very bad. Unfortunately, at this current time, this pandemic that we're experiencing, a lot of people are suffering from stress, anxiety, depression. Some people are even feeling a little bit suicidal. So I thought today we'll do a show on mental stability, how to keep your mind stable and in a good place. Now, who better could I ask to come and join me on the Scott Talk, a Fui show, but a yogi guru. Welcome, Yogi Guru Marlon and the beautiful Royal Empress Ria. How you doing? Thanks for coming on the Ace Got Talk show.
Thank you for having
It's an
us.
honor.
Blessed love.
It's an honor. Give thanks, you know.
God bless you guys.
Yeah.
You guys are so zen. You know, like, you know me, like half hour ago, I was all up in the air, bouncing all over the place like a jelly bean. And just spending time in you lot's company, it's just so calming and tranquil. So as I alluded to, we're not going to go into it, but we know that the world is suffering a crisis at the moment. And,
Sure.
you know, people are panicking, people are fearful, a lot of people have lost their jobs. And as a result of that, people are suffering from stress, anxiety, and depression. You know, you two are both spiritual warriors. So I'm really looking forward to you guys sharing with our listeners what you can do at a time like this to keep your mind focused and razor sharp. So before we go into that, I just want to start by just saying first, ladies first, sister, free your thoughts.
Through my thoughts. Okay, so blessed love and give thanks for having us here. I think mental stability is something, or just mental health in general, is something that everyone should be kind of aware of within themselves. But it's something that I frequently discuss with Marlon. Anyways, you know, we talk about kind of maintaining balance in our life. And we actually recently did a podcast on that, on balance and how to maintain balance in life. And that kind of went into the workings of mental stability. But I think mental stability in any case is about cultivating your being more than anything else. And I think in a world that's full of like distractions, this pandemic actually, in many ways, it has forced people to have to deal with themselves, you know, because a lot of the time we're busy, we're going to work, we always find something to do, basically. There's always some kind of distraction. And this pandemic, you're kind of forced to just be at home. And I guess people are struggling with their mental health because they're struggling with facing themselves in many ways. And I think the term mental illness, it can sound very derogatory, particularly to anyone suffering. And most of the time, actually, it's just imbalance more than anything else.
Definitely.
Rather than illness in itself. And when people go to hospitals and they're treated, for example, with like Western medicine, they say that they're treating some kind of chemical imbalance.
Yes.
You know, they don't say that they're treating necessary illness, but imbalance. So it kind of comes down to the fact that more than anything, mental instability is down to imbalance in our lives.
Definitely.
So it's about finding that balance and that grounding within yourself. And this time actually allows us to take the time to do that.
Definitely. I like the way you phrased that. And there is a slight stigma associated with what they call mental health.
Sure, yeah.
And this is why I wanted to highlight that mental health is literally just the state and the well-being of your mind.
Precisely.
And, you know, most people when they think, I mean, I done we covered this last year, Mental Health Awareness Month, and we done a lot of videos around mental health and mental health awareness. And I think a lot of people, when they look at mental health, they look at, say, they're paranoid schizophrenic.
Right, yes.
And they don't necessarily look at the, say, single mum struggling with 3 kids who might be slightly stressed as having a mental health. But that is a form of mental health. It's about the state of your mind generally, whether it be healthy or not healthy. Yogi Marlon, free your thoughts.
Well, I like to, resonate with, the vibrations around me. And mental health is not only about the paranoid schizophrenic or or even the bipolarness of somebody's personality, but it also goes into addictive behaviors and eating disorders as well.
Mhm.
You know, people have to find a balance within their own bodies in efforts to kind of gain a clear vision throughout their mind. And there are many different practices that we can go into, such as yoga, that actually help these conditions maintain equilibrium or maintain balance in a sense of, you know, when somebody is in a search for, you know, healing these specific causes. It's tough to say who is actually schizophrenic and who is paranoid when you look at the homeless streets on the train or just your public transportation. When you look at people who are under external stresses, people who deal with mental problems in their own family lineage, so doctors would classify that as genetics. And you know, but your environment plays a big part in how you control your environment, plays a big part on how to deal with this mental illness.
Definitely. So, for the purpose of today's conversation, because it's fair to say even mental health awareness is a massive area, and you know, mental health covers a wide range of topics from one end of the spectrum to another. You know, mild symptoms to, you know, the stuff that need to be maybe medically treated. So, for the purpose of this conversation, as we know, we are in a pandemic, and a lot of people are at home either due to self-isolation or advice and recommendation given by the government. And spending long periods at home with kids, etc., can be quite stressful. I looked at some statistics before I came on the show, and even domestic violence has soared through the roof, right, since this pandemic. So, what would you guys, the advice would you give to our listeners at home that are sitting at home, stressed, maybe suffering from a bit of anxiety, and also a bit, you know, unsure about the future, unsure about, you know, just the certainty of their jobs, etc. What would you, sister, say to those people, and what would you do to give the advice you give to stabilize their mindset?
Right. I think one of the first things that this whole pandemic has done is stirred up a lot of fear. And I mean, everyone has fears in their life. People have traumas and they have fears. And I think this pandemic, in many ways, it has kind of pried on that, on that fear that's kind of naturally within most people. And it's created it has had such a huge impact that people, the vibrational fear is just rising, you know, slowly but surely, because so many people have kind of fallen victim to everything that the government is saying. And this is not to say that everything is a lie or to come up with some kind of conspiracy per se, but I think more than anything, people aren't thinking about the practical things that they can do to just keep themselves safe, in terms of, like, you know, working on your immune system, doing your research, you know, doing your research into this whole virus, first and foremost, doing your research into how you can protect yourself, how you can strengthen your immune system, ways, and actually knowing that stress and all of these things add to that. Like, it adds to your fear. Like, being stressed and anxious, it's just, all it's going to do is rise that vibration. And at this moment, a lot of us in this world are actually working off of that vibration. So I don't think people realize how much that's impacting everyone as a whole, this whole vibration of fear. So the first thing for us to do, actually collectively, is to lower that vibration of fear, because it's feeding something bigger than us. More than anything else, it's feeding something bigger than us. So I think that's the first thing to do, is that people need to start to do research and start to protect themselves, so that you can kind of quell that anxiety and that fear within yourself. Now, I know there's more practical and pressing issues like job loss and those kind of things that people are like, okay, financially, I'm not going to be okay. I'm not going to have money. I'm not going to have this. Okay, so before all of the material things, right, in this world, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that we don't need these things, but before all of these kind of things, there's just yourself, you know. And if you can't keep that well, if you can't keep that healthy, then who's going to spend that money? You know, who's going to go shopping when all the shops open up and all the consumerism ensues? So I think more than anything else, we need to be investing in things like meditation, you know, and I can't stress this enough. And I know that a lot of people might hear that and it just sounds a little bit fanciful, like, okay, meditation again, like someone's saying it, but it's a practical tool. It's not just something that you it's not just a word, you know, it's
100.
actually a practice in itself, and it's something that I practice, something that we practice.
100%. 100%. I agree with you, my brother. Would you like to add anything to what the sister just said there?
Meditation is what keeps me, you know, in that state of centered peace.
Mhm.
You know, even as everything around me is happening and as things are shifting, you know, how is it that you can apply, you know, your sense of balance, you know, to those around you? How do you share that peace with those around you? It's only by living it that you allow yourself to it's only by living it that you allow yourself to take your practice to another level. Because, you know, meditation, even though people think, okay, I'm going to sit cross-legged and I'm going to close my eyes and focus and breathe, you know, like they see in the pictures, it becomes more about how are you moving your body to sustain a sense of balance within yourself. So whether that means going out for your daily run and finding, you know, practice with your breath, a rhythm with your breath that allows you to attain, okay, I'm back to grounding. I know how to move forward in efforts to, you know, maintain a sense of balance, maintain a sense of peace. I know that I can find it in my creative expression, such as art, such as reading. These different things can help you to achieve not only a sense of balance in your life, but it can make those around you inspired. You know, and I think motivation actually applies a sense of, you know, a sense of inspiration, not only the word itself, inspiration, you know, from your inside to the outside world.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's, for me, that's, you know, a big part of meditation and why it's so important, not only in my life, but people's lives all around the world, and me and the Queen. So.
Definitely. I think it's just fair to point out to the listeners at home at this point that depending on where you're at, you might need a holistic approach to releasing your stress levels, or you might need to speak to a professional counselor, depending on your circumstances. So what we're doing out today is just a little disclaimer. We're giving out advice for those that, you know, are suffering from maybe stress, anxiety, depression, but that are still at the stages where they could possibly approach it from a holistic point of view. If your stress levels, or you're feeling, you know, suicidal, or, you know, a little bit really clinically depressed, I would advise you to seek professional medical advice. Back over to you guys. So, young lady, you talked about, well, you both talked about balance and finding that balance. So for our listeners at home that, you know, uncertainty about jobs, uncertainty about bills, you know,
uncertainty about everything.
Overnight, the rug's been pulled from under their feet, and they're trying to find that balance, that harmony. The words you always use, my brother, that sense of union. What practical advice can we give our listeners at home?
Okay.
Queen.
I mean, cultivating harmony within yourself is, I mean, it's something that I'm itinerally working on, you know, so
How do you do that?
I don't feel like, so you want to know exactly my tips?
The routine.
All right. Okay, let me go through it. I feel like first and foremost for me personally is I feel like I have a connection with the divine.
Brilliant.
And
absolutely brilliant.
Having that connection with the divine keeps me centered. Nothing can throw me off balance.
Brilliant.
Impossible. Like I feel that strongly within myself. And I think if you can find something that can anchor you,
brilliant.
You know, whatever that might be, it could be your children.
Brilliant.
It could, whatever it might be that anchors you in your life. If you can find an anchor in your life, then I think that helps you to move forward, you know, because grounding helps you to move forward. So once you have a level of grounding, then you don't become a dabbler. There's many dabblers in this society where they jump from one thing to the next. And, you know, it's fine to explore and stuff like that, but you become a wanderer, and wanderers are lost.
I love listening to you. Like, just break that again. Tell us what a dabbler is, because we have to stay grounded. We're in a dabbling business. What's a dabbler? Go for it.
You know, there's nothing wrong with like sort of trying new things and experience and searching, you know, because that's seek and ye shall find is the word. But there's many people who are seeking in a way that it's a perpetual search. There's no stop. They're going nowhere. There's no destination to their search. So I feel like you have to have a level of direction, a level of grounding, and then once you have that footing, you can start to move forward into other practices.
Yeah.
You see, because, okay, let's say, for example, so I'll speak for my own experience. I'm
Yeah.
a Rasta.
Mhm.
Now, as a Rasta, I'll practice yoga
Mhm.
and I can practice Zen meditation because that's actually my practice, Zen meditation, and I teach it.
Mhm.
But it doesn't mean that because I practice all of these things, I'm suddenly ungrounded and I'm unsteady. And if someone says, oh, you're believing in the Most High, I'm going to be confused, or I'm going to be like, no, because Buddha said, or
Yeah,
because no, I'm not. You can't
Yeah.
be thrown off of your center
Yeah.
because of your practices. So I think firstly, people need to find a level of grounding,
Yeah.
and then start to use the practical tools, basically, to bring themselves that center and that balance.
I want to play God's advocate here because I'm exactly the same with you.
Right.
I'm so grounded that I can branch into enough different things. It's
Sure.
not going to affect my grounding.
Mhm.
And I can have conversations with people on enough levels and really understand where they come from, and it doesn't affect where I'm at. Do you know what I mean? I can sit down with a Muslim and we can
of
talk
course.
about
people of all different
you
walks
know,
of life.
you know, ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, ashhadu anna Muhammad Abdullah Rasulullah, and I can understand your perspective. It
Of
doesn't
course.
change my grounding, and I can leave it, you know. But let me play God's advocate for a minute. We talked about the dabbler,
Right.
and we talked about the dabbler who's just that perpetual dabbling. What if that dabbler has never found what they're looking for?
Right.
They've never found that sense of grounding.
Mhm.
What would you say to that person?
If they've never found that.
Yeah,
sense
they're
of
still
grounding.
dabbling here, dabbling there. They've not found what it is that they're looking. Because I think the
My
reason
question would be, what it is are you looking for?
good question. Because I would say the reason why we are so grounded is because we found what it is we're looking for. That anchor is what makes.
Mhm.
But we found it. We know when you found that anchor, you knew this is me. This is where it resonates. This is home.
Mhm.
So I don't think there are some people that haven't necessarily found that.
But I
Yeah,
wasn't seeking, I wasn't seeking.
There's a saying that comes to mind. You don't know home unless you've been there.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
So where is your home?
Brilliant.
Mhm.
You can go to a stranger's land and say, oh, I don't know this language, or I don't know. But ultimately, if they've taken our culture from us, if they've taken our language from us, and all these different practices mean nothing, then what gives you a sense of identity? And to me, ultimately, you have to maintain a sense of inner awareness.
Definitely.
Because I'm a very practical person
Definitely.
especially when it comes to my spirituality, because the reason I love yoga so much, the truth is in the trees, is because the nature of yoga was to break down the science of spiritual elevation.
Mhm.
How do you achieve these certain things?
Yeah.
All right. So how do you move your body in a specific way that allows the blood to flow properly, that
Definitely.
allows the musculoskeletal system to align itself so that you can be healthy?
Yeah.
What is it that you eat in your life that allows you to bring a sense of well-being to yourself and elongate the life process?
Yeah.
Because I personally want to live to 100. So that I can live through my years of wisdom and be able to share that with others. How do I breathe in a way that allows me to acquire a sense of union, right, with the environment outside of me to the environment inside of me? So, I think that we should be our own masters.
Definitely.
Because
Definitely.
there's a difference between a master and a slave.
Definitely. Can I just throw a little quote in there? Ace Scott Talk to the world.
Mhm.
A man that is not master of himself. I forgot. No, say he who is not master of himself.
Yeah. He's a master of none.
There's nothing. Yeah.
There's nothing. He's done.
Ace Scott Talk. He who is not master of himself is master of nothing. Yeah. So it's very important.
Yeah.
Self-mastery. And I like what you said about that inner awareness.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I think that's very important. And it marries up with what the sister said earlier
Sure.
about this time has allowed people to deal with themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because some
Yeah.
people have never really
Had to do that.
had time alone, like looking in the mirror, like just me and you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Ace Scott Talk. In my Eagles and Chickens, one of my signature motivational piece. You can find out my YouTube channel, Ace Scott Talk, Eagles and Chickens. I give you the analogy of the eagle and the chicken, and I give you the analogy of the eagle that's a chicken that doesn't know, the eagle that thinks he's a chicken that doesn't know he's really an eagle. And when there's no one around, what do you do in that situation? No one to validate your self-worth, no one to tell you who you really are. You got to look in the mirror and you got to ask yourself that question. So yeah, it goes back to what you said about
Yeah.
inner awareness and being in tune
Mhm.
with self. I just want to pick your brains a little bit. The last, you was talking about the breathing,
Yeah.
and one of the things, and you was talking about living to 100, and one of the things that came to mind when you were speaking is a story you told quite recently about you gave the analogy of a few different animals, one being the tortoise,
Okay.
and how many breaths they take
Yeah.
per minute,
Yeah.
and how that affects their lifespan. Share that with the listeners, because I think that was absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful.
Okay. So the tortoise or the dog, you
Mhm.
know, they have very fast breathing patterns. I think the dog breathes about 20 to 30 breaths per minute.
But the dog pants, he's like,
Yeah, he's usually all right, and they call it dog years, and
Yeah.
they live a very much shorter life compared to that of humans.
that's
Now
right.
the tortoise actually breathes, I think, between 5 and 10 breaths a minute.
So very slow, very.
I needed that, you know. I needed that. So the tortoise, right? They could live up to 300 to 500 years.
Interesting.
The human being now, they breathe anywhere between 13 breaths per minute
Mhm.
to 17 breaths per minute. Now you can lower that and slower your metabolism, especially through the practices of yoga,
Brilliant.
Truth and Trees. You can lower that and actually, the yogis believe that life is actually measured by the number of breaths. So if you can lower your respiratory rate, then you can actually expand your life, extend your life.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Break it down, just because I'm a mess. When they say life is expanded by the number of breaths, have they got an equation that if you breathe this many beats per minute, you're likely to live to this?
So it's not really an equation, sort of say, even though it is a science, but
Yeah.
the yogis have basically used principles of pranayama, which is basically known as breathing, breath control.
Yeah.
Now the yogis look at the prana as much more than just the air that flows through into the lungs,
Mhm.
but how is it that you can actually lower your heart rate enough so that you can find yourself in this state of meditation? And they have done this, different science records, you know, it has been recorded in various studies. But through these different breathing techniques, such as such as just simple mindful awareness of the breath, such as cooling the body, such as heating the body, such as creating a calm sense, or even invigorating the body. There are different practices that can allow you to kind of extend or control the emotion, you know, that one has to their outer experience.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
This is one medicine, you know, out of the millions of medicines, you know, out there, from Western medicine to Eastern tradition, I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sister Ria,
Yes.
You mentioned earlier that you practice Zen.
Yeah, meditation.
Share with the listeners how that could possibly benefit themselves at a time like this.
Yeah, I think, you know, Marlon just mentioned about kind of how breathing can, you know, help with kind of your emotional state.
Yes.
And that's really how, for me, meditation works.
Yeah.
Because when you sit to meditate, it's like you said, you know, people haven't had that time to kind of sit with themselves. And meditation allows you that time to sit with yourself. And it's a very healing tool, because when you sit to meditate, you have to, generally you're focusing on your breath.
Yeah.
You know, that's your source, that's your life force, essentially.
Yeah.
One of the key kind of practices when you first start meditating is to count your breaths, actually.
Yeah.
You know, to go up to maybe 10 and then to restart. Because usually by the time people get to 3, their mind goes somewhere else, actually.
Yeah.
So most of the time people don't have the mental focus to get to 10.
Yeah.
Usually people get to 1, 2, 3, and they start thinking about something else that they were doing or where they were before they came to meditation.
Yeah.
So and then over time, as you continue to practice, you'll get up to 10, you maybe get up to 20, 30, depends.
Yeah.
And then after a while, you no longer have to count anymore.
Yeah.
You just follow the
Yeah.
breath.
Yeah.
And what that does for you is not only does it calm your body and your mind, but it helps you to find stability in your emotional state.
Yeah.
Because when I sit to meditate, sometimes people come out of meditation, you know, very emotional, you
Yeah.
know. And I remember speaking to my Zen teacher at one point, you know, and I was like, I've been having some different experiences in meditation.
Yeah.
And, you know, there was one meditation that was fairly emotional, and he was like, and did it pass? And I was like, well, yeah, it did. And he was like, well, that's it.
Yeah.
You know, because that's all meditation is. It's a moment for you to see, a moment for you to see yourself.
Yeah.
And then to allow it to pass. You don't need to grasp the moment and think that was really emotional. That was really, or I felt this kind of emotion. It's just allow it to be and also allow it to pass, because that, he said, unless we can allow that to pass, then we can't allow ourselves to heal from whatever it is that we're experiencing.
I was dying. I was waiting for you to finish because I wanted to say, you guys held the healing and meditation in January.
Yes.
And I needed that at the time. I came to that, but I didn't tell you what I was going through and how much I needed to heal.
Yeah.
And I brought a friend with me as well who's heavily into yoga. And I don't know if you saw, but there's literally tears streaming down their face. And afterwards, they said to me, hey, I needed that as well. So the healing that takes place through just that mindset, and it's like you said, it's letting it pass. It's not holding these emotions inside us, but just coming to a place where we can kind of come to terms with them, deal with them, accept them, and let them pass.
Yeah, and I agree with you. Acceptance is such a key word there.
Yeah.
Because I think unless we can start to find acceptance in ourselves, because a lot of the time I think we look at the people, you know, we were speaking earlier on Sadhguru.
Yeah.
We mentioned people like that who are very inspirational to people. People look up to him. And there's many other teachers out there that people look up to. And I think a lot of the time in our minds, we believe that they don't have thoughts that arise that may be negative.
Yeah.
Or thoughts that arise that might not align or be, you know, spiritual in a sense. But the difference, I think, a lot of the time is their acceptance of reality. Their acceptance of who they are, their nature, and where they are in their life.
Yeah.
So even if moments of judgment come up, because everyone is human, so I think it's naive to think that that doesn't happen to even a teacher.
Yeah.
Moments of judgment, comparisons, feelings of maybe unworthiness, or whatever it might be, you know, that can kind of throw someone's meditation. That will happen to everyone, because we must remember, everyone here, teacher or no teacher, is having a physical experience. So everything that you experience, that I experience, you know, we're talking about being the collective whole in a sense. Everything I experience, everything you experience, you know, we've all experienced it. Everyone's experienced it at one stage in their life. Maybe not yet, but at some point you will. So I think it's naive to think that people who are teachers aren't experiencing it. The difference is that they've come to a level of acceptance in their reality. And once you can have that level of acceptance, you can start to cultivate harmony in yourself. You can start to accept who you are. So a lot of the time people are representing a reality that doesn't truly exist.
100%, the Matrix.
You know? There we go, you know.
Yeah. Or even on a superficial level, you know, buying stuff that they can't afford.
Social media is a big part of
people
that.
They don't like, you know?
They don't know.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
So there's that. And that in itself, you know, going back to mental stability, that in itself is a form of mental illness.
Yeah.
To represent a reality that doesn't truly exist is a form of mental illness.
Definitely.
Because if you're pretending, if your life is pretense in itself, then who are you? If someone was to ask you that question.
But people live the lie, don't they? A lot of people, they get so caught up into this world that they portray. Look at me, my world's so perfect, you know. I think some of them are actually to believe the lie.
They're engrossed in it. They're enthralled in
so
it.
engrossed in it, you know.
I agree with you, but it doesn't make it true.
That's right.
Irrespective of how engrossed someone might be.
Yeah.
They still, outside of that, you know, when all the validation is gone, like you gave the eagle and the chicken, when all the validation is gone, you know, they have to sit with themselves. Who am I? Definitely.
And I think why I gravitate to yogis and anybody who practices is the art of yoga, I think is because it's real. You strip right back down to the essence.
Basics.
You know, there's no pretense here. This is what it is. You know, it's that raw nature of things. My brother, Yogi, you're nodding your head there. You wanted to say something?
Yeah, you know, that is the stripping down.
Yes.
Into the oneness
Brilliant.
of the Most High or of the universe, or however you want to describe that.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing.
Definitely.
It does take a level of acceptance.
Yeah.
And it does take a level of truth. But a lot of people will question that truth and say, okay, if this is truth, then what is it that I'm actually experiencing? And we are spiritual beings having a physical experience. So similar
Brilliant.
things happen same time because we are all physical beings. We are all spiritual beings having a physical experience.
Uh-huh.
So you know what it's like to be a child. You know what it's like to be a teenager. You know what it's like to be an adult, and you know what it's like to go into your older stages of life and feel the transition. So once a man, twice a child, as
yep.
my aunts would say all the
Once
time.
a man, twice a child.
So
yeah.
it's truly about accepting your experiences through life and how that has made you to become the man that you are, or the woman that you are, the king or the queen that you are today.
Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. I had a question queued, but the once a man, twice a child threw me because I was meditating on that the other day, and I came up with my own philosophy.
Share it, please.
Well, that's what I was trying to remember. No, because in the typical biblical sense of once a man, twice a child, so hopefully it comes back to me something. They refer to, like you said, you start off as a teenager. Or sorry, a toddler, and you crawl, then you walk, and then you run, and then you become a man, and then as you go into your later years in life and you get older, you can go back to that childlike state with, you've got someone having to look after you, feed you again, maybe even take you to the toilet. So that's the traditional sense that once a man, twice a child is usually the terminology is usually used in. But I was actually just things come to me. So when you said it, I kind of looked at you like things come to me sometimes, and I was meditating. And I was looking at that saying from a slightly different angle. How could once a man, twice a child? What other areas could we be twice a child in, would you say?
Every day, every day. You learn something new about yourself every single day. You learn something new every day. The man who says that, or the woman, anyone who says that they know everything, really.
Definitely.
They know nothing at all.
Definitely.
On a daily basis, as I deepen my practice, it's I feel like I'm always learning something new about myself. So
there you go.
In many ways, I'm still that child.
There you go. Yeah.
I'm still that child to nature.
Yeah.
We're all children. It's been here thousands of years.
There you go.
So we're all still learning from nature.
Yeah.
All still learning from the Most High, or whatever practice it is that you kind of delve into spiritually, there'll always be something new to learn in that. So in many ways, I think, though they say once a man, twice a child, it's that actually in many ways we're always living in our childlike nature.
There you go. It's not just
it's just the physicality, the body itself kind of, loses its will to like move as fast and things like that. And that might make you seem childlike because someone has to look after you. We kind of know that children need to be looked after.
Yeah.
But in the mind, we're always learning. We're always like children.
Yeah. Stripping back. You also talked about just the whole stripping back process to just really connecting. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit more?
It's I feel like it's a deterioration.
Brilliant.
This physical body.
Definitely.
A lot of people look at it as a deterioration as you grow older. But I had my auntie's cane the other day, and I'm taking my steps. The rod of righteousness. Somebody said to me, your brother actually said to me, "You can't wait till you get old." I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I can't really wait just because of what's perceived now." What's perceived now is like, okay, with age comes wisdom, and what actually makes the wisdom is actually the experiences that one goes through in life.
Brilliant.
So in efforts for you to strip anything back, you have to realize that in efforts for you to grow, there are things that you have to let go of.
Yep.
And the only way for you to let go of certain things is for you to understand your relationship with it and what does it do for you? What is it not doing for you? And how have you grown to transcend that? So even though the physical body is deteriorating, your spirituality or your even from an intellectual standpoint, you have to be consistently growing or forwarding on the path of how can you transcend what our ancestors have left a black print for us? How can we actually go forward in that and not have to learn the same mistake, have to go through the same mistakes? How do we learn to move forward?
Definitely.
So, that's definitely something that I think stripping back, you know, takes
Definitely,
accounting.
definitely. And I think when we talk about stripping back, people, sometimes people have got a limit. You know, I'll strip back, but only this far. But then once you get to that limit, after that, any more stripping back, and it's like, oh, it's a bit too far. But when we talk about stripping back, we're really talking about just letting go completely. It's almost like, do you know when people put their arms out and just fall backwards with the confidence that someone's going to catch you from behind?
Right.
And you are right. There's so much growth in that, because I've often said that there's nothing in this world that we should be so attached to that we can't afford to let go. It doesn't matter if it's your house, car, not being funny, as heartbreaking as it is, not even a partner. Because even sometimes in relationships, we get so engrossed with the part. You love the person, you know, you want to be with that person forever, you know, and it can be heartbreaking when that relationship starts to deteriorate and people sometimes clutch onto straws, you know. But nothing in this world. I mean, myself, as you can see the state of my hair right now, but my hair was not far from just behind yours, my brother. I had ear down to my shoulder, and it's got talk last year for that same stripping back process and for not being attached to anything. Because as far as I'm concerned, your hair is your beauty. And with beauty can also come ego. So for myself to strip back and just remove myself from my ego and not feel like there's anything in this world that I can live without, I shaved my hair, and it was in terms of spiritual growth, I feel amazing. I'm growing my hair back now. It'll take its time, but the fact that I loved my hair, the fact that it meant something to me, I said, for that reason, shave it off. And the growth that I felt in that process was absolutely amazing. So yeah, I would say to people out there, anything you feel attached to right now, get rid of it.
That's hard.
How many people sitting on the couch just said to the wife, right, you're divorced. Right, the kids, right, you move out. Right. Take it easy. But no, but it's true. We have to exercise, you know, stripping back. And I'll be honest with you, it's an amazing feeling in terms of exhilaration and growth. You know, knowing that actually I came into this world naked, and I'll leave naked, and I actually don't need anything. Really, I am good. I am whole. That's one of my mantras. Hey, Scott, take this one board. I am enough. That's my mantra. I am enough, and it's staying in that vibration of just being humble and saying, I'm enough as I am. Brother, give me a mantra.
I am willing. You know, I am willing.
I am love.
I am love. I like that. Golden nugget.
Discipline is a way to a man's balance or woman's balance.
Okay. Okay.
We could go deep. I wanted you to test it a little bit.
Did you want to test it?
It's about a discerning nature.
All right, we're gonna circle. I will come. I'm gonna test that. Do you know? Because I was thinking, discipline is. Say it again. Discipline is a
way to
man's
individual's balance.
Discipline is important, because I was looking at it in different arenas. Discipline in one arena, yes. Discipline in another arena could just be discipline for discipline's sake. But there is a lot of growth within discipline, and we definitely. I'm not going to contradict you and say discipline is not important. It is important.
In this day and time, I think a lot of people need it,
including myself. I know I'm not nearly as disciplined as you are. Some of the things. I admire your discipline.
I learned from you, bro.
No, you don't. I learned from you. Even down, I'm gonna come back to the system, but even down to the fact that you don't eat meat, I admire that, because I stopped eating meat for 5 years, and we know the benefits of having a cleaner diet, cleaner temple. And then I dabbled on it again. And I remember last year when we was in Croydon, and I offered you some food, and you was like, no, I don't eat that. You mean, hey, what's wrong with it? And now, so I'm trying to get back there with the discipline of just cutting meat out my diet altogether, but I'm not there. But as you can see, I'm trying. Today, I offered you a margarita pizza. You looked at that. I don't eat cheese neither. But discipline. Sis, give us a golden nugget.
Okay. In a world of information, the deepest book is found within.
I I love this girl.
I
I love this girl. I love the. You better put a reel in it. You better put a reel in it, bro.
I'm thinking about the proposal.
Proposal, hey, Millionaire TV. Hey, I feel it, show. You know, you'll be the first. You know, right. Do you know, man? If you don't, I will.
Let me get him.
Sister, you're gonna have to hit me with that nugget again because that was a beautiful one. I like that one.
In a world of information, the deepest book is within.
Powerful. That's powerful. I like that one.
Give thanks.
Look into the camera. Hit them up with that at home. Nice and
In a world of information, the deepest book is within. And you can find our podcast on it's Simply
Philosophy, all
Simply
platforms.
Philosophy on all platforms, Spotify, the other one, Apple. Music. You know, feel free to
Anchor.
check us out for some more nuggets.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Ace Scott Talk, a Fui Show. Shout out to management, shout out to producer, shout out to everyone at MediaNet TV. As Ace always says, everybody's got a story to tell. Everybody's got a story to tell. And a Fui Show, it's all about real life, real people, real stories. Tonight I've had two amazing guests, one amazing couple, you know, a power couple, you know, king and queen. I've been in the presence of absolute royalty tonight. So before we go, I just want you guys to summarize. We've talked about, you know, various different aspects of mental stability.
Sure.
Give me a little summary. My brother, and then the sister, and then tell everyone where they can find you as well.
Yeah. You know, the root of mental illness or mental concern that some may have is ultimately realizing the potential that you have as a person. And once you start to realize the potential that you have as a person, you can start to engage that potential by using specific practices and specific methods. You can even reach out to different resources that you might have, relationships in your life. We are always of service. And, you know, you can find us through our podcast or through my brand or through the Queen's brand, Truth in Trees. That's Truth, I-N, Trees. You know, I believe that the nature in me is also the nature in you. It's up to us to find this nature so that we can live our life to its fullest potential, bring in union, you know, through the practices of yoga, of agriculture, and to really just the mind, body, and breath, you know, and bringing those things into union. So I think that's a pretty good summary. You, Queen?
Absolutely.
Okay. I think in a world of, you know, in a fast-paced world, there's many frequency disturbances in ourselves. And I think more than anything, we promote balance, you know, finding balance within yourself, because we are physical, you know, and we're spiritual beings, but we're having this physical experience, and we have to be able to find balance between that. Like, without faith, without works is nothing, you know. And His Imperial Majesty has so many speeches that tells us about amalgamating those two things. So for us, it's all about balance. And my sort of word to people is to try in their lives to find a little bit more balance, you know, whatever it may be that you need to do. And I think a lot of the time we know when we need to stop, we know when we need to take a breath, we know when we need to self-care, you know, is a good way to put it. And whenever you feel that, take that time for yourself, allow yourself to take care of yourself, because you know, internally we all know when we need that time. So yeah, it's Rastaraya. You can find me there. I'm of service. You know, I do meditation classes, so feel free to reach out. Simply Philosophy. You know, we've got our podcast there. We have a lot of information, a lot of tips. So reach out there also.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Ace Scott Talk. You've been an amazing audience. Thanks for joining me. Just before I go, Stephen Hawkins, one of the greatest minds of this modern century. He was once asked in an interview, what do you fear the most? His reply was, he fears the day he can't use his mind to his full potential. Ace Scott Talk. The mind is one of the most powerful tools we have. As human beings, we spend a lot of time and money investing in material objects. We spend a lot of money investing, making the outside look pretty. I urge you, spend as much time developing your mind. At the start of the show, we said your health is your wealth. Well, please, your mental health is also your wealth. I'm your host, Ace Scott Talk, a Fui Show. Join me next week.